If you ever see a man standing alone on Christmas Eve, holding a gift that isn't wrapped, don't look at him. Don't talk to him. Just run. Every town has that story nobody likes to tell out loud. A story parents pretend isn't real, and children whisper about when adults aren't listening. In my hometown of Green Hollow, that story was about the Unwrapped Man. Every Christmas Eve, he appeared on the streets, holding a small red box with no ribbon, no label, no wrapping, just a bare, bright red box. If he offered it to you, you had 3 seconds to run, because anyone who accepted it was found the next morning frozen in place, mouth open, eyes wide, screaming silently. No one knew why, no one knew how, but every Christmas Eve he returned. And 3 years ago, I almost became one of his victims. Before I tell you all the spooky stories, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from, which country and state. I want to hear from you guys. If you enjoyed true horror stories like this, make sure you like the video, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share it with someone who loves horror too. It was December 24th, and the coldest Christmas Eve in decades. A brutal snowstorm covered the town, the air sharp and biting, each breath like broken glass. I had stayed late at a friend's house, helping them wrap last-minute gifts. By the time I stepped outside, the streets were silent and buried under a growing layer of snow. That kind of silence where even your own heartbeat feels deafening. Just me, my footsteps, and the storm. Halfway home, the streetlights began flickering. One by one, they died, leaving only the pale glow of the moon behind heavy clouds. And then I saw him. At the far end of the street, barely visible through the snow, stood a tall man in a long black coat, his face shadowed beneath a wide-brimmed hat. In his right hand, he held a small red box. He wasn't moving, he wasn't breathing, he wasn't human. I stopped walking. The moment I did, he tilted his head as if he had just noticed me. I froze. This was the Unwrapped Man. Slowly, deliberately, he lifted the red box and extended it toward me. A voice inside my head whispered, "Take it." I clenched my teeth and stepped back. The man lowered the box and began walking toward me. Not fast, not slow, just steady, like he had all the time in the world. Every instinct screamed to run. I bolted, the snow crunching under my boots, breath visible in frantic clouds. I dared not look back until I reached the next street where the light flickered back on for a split second, and in that split second, my blood ran cold. He was right behind me, not running, not rushing, just there, like he had stepped through the darkness itself. I slipped on ice, crashing to my knees. I felt a hand brush the back of my neck. I spun around. Nothing. Just the echo of footsteps fading behind me. I ran faster, heart pounding, lungs burning. I reached my front door, hands shaking, fumbling with keys, slamming it shut and locking every bolt. For a moment, I leaned against the door, listening. Silence. Then tap. A single knock. Then another. Slow, rhythmic. Tap. Tap, tap. I backed away, heart hammering. Something slid through the mail slot. A small red box. I screamed and kicked it away, It hit the wall, bounced once, then opened on its own. Inside was nothing, just a hollow black interior that seemed deeper than it should have been, like staring into an endless tunnel. A whisper floated out, "Take it." I covered my ears, but the whisper grew louder, echoing through every wall, every room, every corner. "Take it!" I grabbed the nearest object, a heavy snow globe, and smashed the box as hard as I could. The lights went out, all of them. Silence. And then, behind me, a voice, low and cold. "You shouldn't have done that." I spun around. He was inside the house, standing in the hallway, closer than ever. My breath caught. My legs refused to move. I realized the red box wasn't a gift. It was a lure, a trap, a signal. I ran toward the living room, grabbed a tall mirror leaning against the wall, not knowing why, and held it up. The unwrapped man stopped, tilting his head, confused, afraid. His reflection wasn't in the mirror, only the hallway behind him, dark and endless. I backed away, tripping over furniture. The whispering became chanting, hundreds of voices repeating the same command, "Join us, join us, join us." The lights in the house flickered violently, throwing grotesque shadows across every surface. The shapes of figures formed from those shadows, tall, thin, with elongated limbs, their blank faces staring at me from every corner. I felt the air press against my chest, cold and heavy. The house had become a trap, alive and aware. Each heartbeat echoed the pulse of the lights, the chanting, the rhythm of the terror pressing in. I ran to the staircase, hoping to reach the second floor, somewhere to hide. The stairs stretched impossibly, like it had grown overnight. Each step felt heavier than the last. Then I saw it. Dozens of red boxes lined the walls, each opening on its own, whispering, swaying, sliding toward me. Their black interiors seemed to stare, swallowing light, swallowing me. I tried to scream, but no sound came. The shadows twisted, crawling along the floor like living snakes, climbing the walls, stretching toward me with silent, grasping fingers. I finally reached the attic door. I slammed it shut and pressed my body against it, chest heaving. For a brief moment, silence reigned. Dust motes danced in the dim light, filtering through the single window. Then I noticed one box, shiny, bright red, unmistakable. It was my face on the cover, staring back at me with hollow black eyes. Its whisper was louder than the rest. "You belong to us now." I tried to move, to run, to escape, but the door would not budge. The shadows pressed in, the chanting grew deafening, and the cold hand touched my shoulder. Everything went black. When my neighbor checked the house the next morning, it was all quiet. The snow had fallen heavier than usual, burying footprints. Every decoration was in place, lights glowing softly, nothing unusual. But I was gone. Just like that. Only the red box remained, sitting in the center of the living room, its hollow black interior staring up, waiting for the next person foolish enough to stay out in Green Hollow on Christmas Eve. And if you ever see a man holding a red box on Christmas Eve, don't take it, don't look, don't speak. Just run.
The town of Wintervale was quiet that night, quieter than it had any right to be on Christmas Eve. Snow blanketed every roof and street, sparkling under the pale glow of the street lamps. Families were indoors, fireplaces crackling, laughter drifting through the windows. But for a group of friends, Mia, Jake, Lena, and Thomas, the quiet felt wrong. "Are we really going to the old town?" Mia asked, her breath fogging in the cold air. "It's supposed to be abandoned." Jake shrugged, adjusting his scarf. "Abandoned or not, it's the perfect place for caroling. Just imagine it, our voices echoing in the empty streets. People say Wintervale hasn't been this quiet in decades." Lena shivered. "People also say anyone who goes into that town at night doesn't always come back." Thomas laughed. "Come on, Lena. It's December. Ghost stories are just stories. Let's go." They trudged through the snow, the crunch of their boots loud in the still night. Every so often, they passed houses that had long been boarded up, windows cracked, doors hanging on rusted hinges. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the snow. And though they tried to ignore it, the feeling of being watched settled on them like frost. Mia glanced at her friends, noticing that even Jake's confident grin had faded slightly. The air smelled faintly of smoke, but no chimney had been lit in years. The snow under their feet seemed to whisper with each step, as though the town itself were alive, listening. Finally, they reached the edge of the abandoned town. The streets were perfectly empty, yet faint echoes of music drifted from somewhere deep in the shadows. A church towered in the center, its steeple piercing the moonlight, stained glass windows dark and silent. "Here," Jake said, "we start there. The church has the best acoustics." They stepped inside, boots crunching on broken tiles. The air smelled of dust and decay. Cobwebs stretched across corners like silent warnings. And then they began to sing. At first it was simple. Silent night, holy night, their voices trembling but bright. But as the notes left their mouths, they heard something strange. The song came back, but wrong, distorted, dark. The notes warped into whispers. Mia, Jake, Lena, Thomas. The friends froze. Did you hear that?" Lena whispered. "Probably just an echo," Thomas said, though his voice lacked conviction. They sang again. The church seemed to hum in response. Shadows in the corner shifted. One of them moved closer. Mia's stomach dropped as she realized it was no ordinary shadow. It had no edges, no shape, just a darkness that pulsed and breathed. Jake stepped back. "Maybe we should leave now." Suddenly, a gust of icy wind slammed the door shut behind them. The faint glow from the windows flickered, plunging the church into near darkness. The whispers returned, louder, more insistent. "Come, stay, forever." Thomas grabbed a candle from the altar and lit it. Its flame trembled, casting long, flickering shadows. "We can't just run blindly," he said. "We have to find a way out." They moved toward the main exit, but the layout of the church seemed to shift as they walked. Corridors stretched longer, pews appeared where none had been before, and every door they tried led back inside. Panic started to rise. Mia thought of the old story her grandmother used to tell her about the town that vanished under snow decades ago. Families walked in one winter night, celebrating, singing carols, and no one ever left. "It's like the stories. It's real," she gasped. Lena grabbed her hand. "Focus, Mia, focus." Then the shadow struck. Thomas vanished first. A cold rush of air, a scream that was quickly swallowed by the walls. Mia and Lena screamed, running through the twisting halls. Every echo of their footsteps was joined by whispers, "Mia, Lena." The church seemed alive, pressing against them. Cold hands brushed their backs. Frost formed on the walls, creeping along the floor like slow-moving fingers.
Mia stumbled, nearly falling into a dark corner where she glimpsed Thomas, or what remained of him, his form stretched and twisted like melted wax. Lena yanked her forward. "Keep moving!" Finally, they found a stairwell leading upward. They climbed quickly, breath ragged, feeling the shadows crawling behind them. At the top, a broken window offered a glimpse of the snowy streets outside. Without hesitation, they leapt. Snow cushioned their fall, but the sense of relief was short-lived. The snow outside the church was no longer quiet. Footprints, too many footprints, circled the building, but none belonged to them. And in the distance, a faint strains of a distorted carol floated on the wind, repeating their names, growing louder with each passing second. Mia and Lena didn't stop until the town's edge was behind them. Gasping, shaking, they realized they had escaped, but not everyone had. Thomas and Jake were gone. And deep within the town, faintly, a carol drifted through the night, distorted, echoing, whispering their names. Mia shivered, pulling Lena closer. "We can't tell anyone," she whispered. "No one would believe us, or even if they did, they'd go there anyway." Outside, the snow fell quietly, glittering under the moonlight. But in Wintervale, some carols should never be sung, and some towns should never be entered, especially not after midnight.
Christmas Eve had arrived in the small town of Frostbrook, and the streets were blanketed in thick, sparkling snow, the kind that made footprints crisp and loud with every step. Families were busy inside, lighting fireplaces and singing carols, while outside, the night held a strange, almost unnatural silence. Among the few wandering outdoors were a group of children, Emma, Lucas, and their friends, eager for one last adventure before the holiday celebrations. They whispered excitedly about the local legend. "Have you heard the story?" Lucas asked, glancing nervously at the dark woods on the edge of town. "If you hear sleigh bells after midnight, don't follow them, ever." Emma laughed, brushing snow from her coat. "It's just a story, Lucas. Ghosts and monsters aren't real." But as they neared the forest, a faint jingle drifted across the snow, a soft, hollow sound, like sleigh bells tinkling in the distance. "Did you hear that?" whispered one of the friends. "It's probably just someone delivering gifts late," Emma said, though a shiver ran down her spine. They followed the sound, curious and reckless, until they stumbled upon an old-fashioned sleigh sitting in the snow. Its runners were made of polished wood. The paint faded, but bells hung from the edges, glinting in the moonlight. No horse, no driver, just the sleigh, waiting. Lucas hesitated. I don't think we should..." But curiosity overcame fear. Emma stepped forward and touched the sleigh. The bells jingled softly, then louder, echoing through the silent forest. "Come on, it's probably just abandoned. We can ride it, then go back." The first brave child climbed onto the sleigh. Almost immediately, the snow beneath them seemed to vanish. A gust of icy wind lifted them slightly, and in an instant, they were gone. Emma screamed, "No! Sam!" The air felt heavier, darker. The sleigh moved on its own, sliding across the snow without a driver. The remaining children backed away, but the jingling grew louder, surrounding them. It wasn't cheerful, it was mocking, almost alive. "Run!" Lucas shouted. They darted through the snow, but the sleigh appeared at every turn, silent but present, its bells ringing faintly. Shadows stretched along the trees, flickering unnaturally. Every time they looked back, they saw a dark figure sitting in the sleigh, staring. Emma tripped, falling into the snow. The sleigh stopped in front of her, runners scraping, and a cold hand reached toward her. She scrambled back, her breath ragged, heart pounding. They ran toward the edge of town, but the forest seemed endless, twisting, unfamiliar. Paths they had known well now led to dead ends. The sleigh followed, always just out of reach, bells chiming, whispering laughter. Finally, they reached the main road. The town's lights flickered in the distance. But even as they ran toward safety, the sound of the sleigh lingered, soft but clear. Behind them, in the forest, shadows moved, and a faint bell jingled once, twice, and then stopped. They reached the town square, panting and frozen. The adults looked at them in confusion. "Where have you been?" asked one parent. Emma pointed toward the woods. The sleigh! But no one else could see it. No tracks, no signs, only fresh snow, perfectly untouched, except for a single set of tiny sleigh runners disappearing into the darkness. That night, Emma lay in bed, listening to the wind, and somewhere deep in the forest, a faint jingle echoed, and she swore she heard her missing friend laughing, calling her name, riding the Silent Sleigh. The legend was true. Some sleighs never return, and on certain nights, they hunt.
It was Christmas Eve in the small, snow-covered town of Hallowbrook. The streets glimmered under a fresh layer of snow, and the scent of pine and cinnamon filled the air. Most families were indoors, wrapping presents and hanging lights. But for Clara, the night was quiet. Too quiet. She lived alone in a small, crooked house at the end of Maple Street. Her neighbors waved as they passed with gifts, but she felt invisible, forgotten. Clara sighed and hung her coat, wishing for some sign that she wasn't completely alone this holiday. That's when she noticed it. A package on her doorstep. No sender, no name. Just a small box tied with red ribbon resting on the snow like it had appeared out of nowhere. Clara picked it up, brushing snow from the top. Probably a delivery mistake, she muttered, but curiosity burned inside her. She carried it inside, set it on the kitchen table, and stared at it. The first gift inside seemed innocent enough. A small wooden ornament, carved like a little angel. But as she touched it, she felt a chill run through her fingers. It wasn't just cold, it was wrong, almost alive. That night, Clara placed the ornament on her mantle. She went to bed, hoping to forget the strange delivery. But as she drifted off to sleep, she heard faint whisperings. "Clara, look." She startled, opened her eyes. Nothing. Just the soft glow of the Christmas lights. She shook her head. "I'm imagining things," she whispered. The next morning, the box contained another gift, a pair of gloves. They were beautiful, warm, perfect. But when Clara slipped her hands inside, she saw faint red scratches appear along her palms. She pulled them off, heart pounding, and noticed the scratches spelled out her name. What is this?" she muttered, backing away. By midday, the gifts became more unsettling. A scarf appeared, soft and inviting, but as she draped it around her neck, she heard whispers of neighbors' names and secrets, things only someone who lived nearby would know. Goosebumps pricked her skin. She tried to ignore it. After all, it was Christmas. Surely someone was playing a cruel prank. But the box kept coming. A candle that flickered unnaturally, casting shadows of figures that weren't there. A small music box that played a lullaby, but the tune was warped, twisted with faint screams hidden beneath the melody. By evening, Clara began noticing strange things in the town.
First, the small. A neighbor's cat vanished. Then, the unusual. A streetlight went out, flickering ominously. And finally, the terrifying. A neighbor's house stood empty, doors wide open, but no one returned. Clara's fear grew. She tried destroying the gifts. She burned the music box, smashed the ornament, cut the gloves into pieces. But each morning, the items reappeared, perfectly intact, waiting. She remembered her grandmother's stories, tales of cursed objects sent to lonely people during Christmas, selecting someone to be their guardian for a dark purpose. "It's happening," she whispered. "It's choosing me." The box delivered more that night. A small wrapped candle holder, inside a single match. She struck it, lighting the candle. Shadows leapt from the walls, twisting into shapes she didn't recognize. Faces of the vanished townspeople, their eyes hollow, mouths open in silent screams. Then came the final gift, a mirror framed in gold. She hesitated, heart hammering. Something inside her screamed not to open it, but curiosity, or maybe terror, pushed her forward. She peered into it. Her reflection stared back, but it wasn't her. Her eyes were hollow, skin pale, mouth stretched in a silent scream. Behind her, shadows moved, forming the faces of all the people who had disappeared. They reached for her, pulling, twisting, and whispering. She dropped the mirror. The shadows swirled, engulfing her room. The candle's flame flickered violently, casting shapes across the walls. Long fingers, twisted faces, mouths that moved without words. Outside, the snow fell quietly, glittering under the streetlights. The town seemed peaceful again, as if nothing had happened. But inside Clara's house, the box sat on the table, ribbon perfectly tied, waiting. And faintly, from somewhere inside the box, the music box played its warped lullaby, echoing into the empty streets. A whisper floated through the cold air. "Merry Christmas, Clara. See you next year."